Welcome back to Blackacre Ranch, everybody. My name's Jeff. I am here on our brand new buffalo ranch. We've had a lot going on today. I'm sunburned. All of us are sunburned. We've made a lot of progress. So people have been seeing that we've had bison. They've been seeing the YouTube channel and some other pictures and just word of mouth. And a question that kind of comes up is, why do we get these animals? Not particularly why bison, but why out of all the bison that we could have gotten, did we get these? And so that's a question that I think applies to a lot of people whenever they look for any livestock. And I think I want to kind of answer some of the factors that we looked at and kind of the things that were, I guess, before us that made us choose this set of bison over a different set of bison. So stick with us. Before I begin, I wanted to kind of give some disclaimers, okay? This is not about a bison conformation, about how the appearance of the animal looks. Do they look pretty? Are they, you know, whatever? They're just a general overall appearance, okay? There are certain things, hereditary things that can linger through in animals that make them, you know, the legs aren't good or their color's not good. This isn't that, okay? Every animal has their issues. I'm not addressing that. This is for everybody. Also, a factor I'm not going to really talk about is cost. It's blatantly obvious that cost is a factor you're going to go ahead and look at. Is it a good deal? Not a good deal? You know, how much money to ship, not ship? So that's understood. Let's leave that to the side with confirmation and move on to the first point. The first thing that we thought of was the environment. Animals are used to different types of climate and the different types of grasses that are there. And we are, of course, here in pasture 6. We've got some new grasses coming in behind us. But places throughout the country have different seasons of grasses and different types of grasses. They also have different types of bacteria and enzymes and other things that get inside their digestive system that can affect them and that they get used to, okay? So if I was to go look for a buffalo or any animal, I would typically want to try and find something that's similar to the type of area where I'm already at. That way, there's not a big shock to the system when they move, okay? If you're up in where you have cold season grasses and you move to a hot season grasses, that can be a shock to an animal, and it just makes that transportation that much more difficult to adjust to your new area. So if you have a chance and the option, find something that's a little bit closer to where you're at. And before I leave this point, actually, I do want to kind of mention that whenever you transport the animals, especially if it's from a completely different environment, you do have certain conditions that can arise that you want to watch your animals for. And that can be medical issues that come up, like loss of weight, maybe some general type of medical problem, some sort of sickness. Just kind of be mindful to watch them for a while as they make that change. Because you could be saying, hey, I've got a great deal on this animal 1,500 miles away. They ship it to you, and then you spend a ton of money in vet bills just trying to get them back up to their regular weight as they've adjusted. And so it ends up not being that much of a good deal anyway. So first point, look for the environmental conditions and try and find something, if possible, similar to where you're at. All right, you'll notice behind me is this red gate. We got 3 of these things and we had to rush it. So we got here this morning and we put in, because Steve's buffalo behind me, we're gonna be here probably around noon. I still had to pick up gates, fill up water. I figured you didn't want to see all that stuff anyway, but we got the gates in like with 5 minutes to spare, okay? So this is actually it behind us, and if you've been following my videos, yes, I did put it on the low side, the hinge, just because the high side over here had multiple sections of barbed wire and posts at different height, and it was just like, oh my gosh, we're never gonna make it. So as I said before, general rule of thumb, okay? It's not like it has to be. So we put ours on low side this time. Anyway, behind me you'll see Steve's buffalo. It's just a blast to kind of watch them and chill. So anyway, second point about why we chose these animals, okay? And this comes down to understanding how your animals were handled, okay? talk to your rancher, and you get some information, okay? There's a lot of times you have small ranches and big ranches. And they treat animals differently, partly because they're so big or they're so small, okay? Smaller ranches can tend to be more friendly and more personal with the animals because you're always around them, okay? The large ones typically might have it where they have sprawling different acreages because they're way up north and stuff like that. Those might not get a lot of interaction with humans except one time a year, okay? So if you pay attention to the type of ranch you have and that you're buying your animals from, it can help you, because if you operate differently than the rancher you're buying it, there may be some adjustment period. If they associate human with four-wheeler screaming and drive me in for a roundup, and that's all they really see you for, they don't want to look at you and they don't want to deal with you. On the other hand, if you had more of a smaller ranch where they're more personable, more friendly, hand-fed, these kinds of things, and that's what you would do, kind of like in my position, then it makes the transition a little bit easier, okay? The person who moved these buffalo has moved multiple buffalo before, okay? And she said that these bulls, out of like all the ones she's ever moved, were very calm and they were not a problem, okay? And I thought, you know, that's pretty cool. Hopefully not so calm that they don't do their job. But anyway, these were very passive. Steve's taking very good care of them. He's very familiar with them. They know who he is. We got him from a good person who spent time with the animals, and I think we're gonna reap a lot of that benefit. So, second point, kind of know how they were handled, so that way it matches how you want to handle yours to make that transition easier. All right, guys, this is like a gorgeous day today. This has been a day where we've had 78-degree weather with a nice, cool 10-mile-an-hour breeze all day, and this has been fabulous. So I'm actually sitting here at the water trough because I got, well, with Nathan's help, we got everything connected. This is filling up, and I thought, you know what, I'll sit here, kind of dry my hands a little bit, and let you know about the third point. The third point that we thought about are, you can buy your animals at a sale barn or through private treaty. So a sale barn is where you just go and it's like auction style. They hoard up a bunch of animals that people bring in on consignment kind of style. They put them through, you bid on them, and they get shipped off to a pen, and you have like 24 hours to come over and pick them up, okay? These animals come from all over. And a downside about having these sale barns is that you don't have a history of the animal. You have a one-time shot of exactly what this animal looks like at that moment in time. You're not necessarily talking to the owners. You may not know who the owner is. And so you don't have really a lot of history behind them. You don't know how they've been handled. You don't know what environment per se that they came in. You may know a geographic area, but there's different types of grasses and pastures and, you know, and different types of terrain in different areas. So there's a lot of information that you just typically don't know about the animal. And that's the first bad thing about a sale barn. The second thing is you got to understand they're at a sale barn for a reason, right? Somebody doesn't want them, okay? So this is, I've got a bull that's jumped my fence twice, I'm pissed off, and I don't want him anymore. So guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna go sell him, all right? And they may take him to a barn. You're not gonna know he jumps. You're not gonna know if he's feisty. You're not gonna know if he had a bad temperament, if he was an aggressive bull, if he just wasn't very nice and was just kind of bad like that. You're not gonna know if he jumped a lot. You're not gonna know his health record. You're also not gonna know for, like on the girls' side of things, did they get pregnant? Do they have problems getting pregnant? Do they just not get pregnant enough, okay? So these are all types of things that you just don't have information about when you go to a sale barn, and that's a disadvantage of it. Now there is a caveat or an exception to this rule, okay? Yes, there's a lack of information in general, but people sell calves at barns, okay? Yearlings are still fairly young. There's not a huge history behind them. That's commonly done, okay? But mature animals, you know, yes, they get sold there, but calves, a lot less information you have to worry about behind them because they're so young. But as you get to these mature animals, you just don't know. Sitting here watching this thing fill up's like watching paint dry. A couple other things about that sale barn. There is some good about sale barns, okay? It's not all bad, okay? The thing that's positive about it, not the fees you pay, but you can go to a sale barn and get a lot of selection in one spot, okay? It's not all bad. And you have a wide variety of backgrounds and genetics and other things that can come there. So sale barns aren't exactly all bad, but you just got to kind of watch and be mindful and maybe be very much more acute to the conformation and signs of animals that maybe as a novice you wouldn't know. And right now as a novice, I don't know. So I stayed away from a sale barn. I had a hard time actually working today because we moved these 24 bison over to this big pasture, and to see these little brown dots on the green grass, I could sit here for hours just watching these people. So yeah, we moved them over. We got some film of them. Okay. They've been prancing around, they came out, we had fed them some cubes, so anyway, they're perfect, all right? They're just great to chill right there. So on the flip side of the sale barn, you can buy an animal through a private treaty. Now this is something where you talk to somebody else who's selling animals and you want to buy animals, and it's just direct back and forth, okay? You hash out the deal, you go ahead and do your stuff. A huge positive that I feel with this was that you can get information about the animal that you would not get through a sale barn, okay? You can know when they were born, which is huge. You actually know the age. Their weights as they've gotten through stages, if the records have been kept, what vaccinations they've had, have there been any medical issues, maybe even some temperament, you know, types of things like this that you just wouldn't have known otherwise. So having that information can be huge as you try and gauge what animal you might want to buy out of the herd. So it's really almost as if you're buying the rancher, okay? That rancher and the relationship you have and the confidence you have in their abilities is huge. And so buying these things, I've bought them from Steve and I've bought them from a guy named Brent, and it's been great, okay? I have information, and really it's the comfort level that I have with those ranchers that made me think, okay, I want to buy it from them, all right? There is that interaction. Oftentimes people will sell stuff and just say, hey, here's some pictures, okay? Don't trust the picture, okay? Go to the ranch and see how they handle. See how they feed, what types of feeds, how the place is set up, okay? The rancher can bring that comfort level, and so it's not just the animal, but a lot of times it's that comfort level with a knowledgeable rancher that gives you that feeling of, hey, this could be a good buy if I can see some that look good and have good conformation. Last point I'll just say, if you do private treaty, unlike a sale barn where they want money right then, sometimes ranchers are willing to work with each other and so forth, and there might be a little bit more amenable options. So these are all good things about private treaty. So hopefully you can look at them and kind of figure out, do you want sale barn? Do you want private treaty? I will end it with a couple bad things maybe about private treaty. Private treaty means you have to drive to all these different ranches, okay? And ranches aren't always everywhere around every corner like a Walmart. So you might find yourself driving a lot of different places, okay? When you get to that ranch, there's a general breed of genetics and type of animals that are at that ranch. So not only are you driving a lot of places potentially, but you are also limited in the type of selection possibly that you have and the numbers. So think about how many quantity you want. Do you want them all from one place? When I was looking for animals that I had, I actually looked for a couple different ranches besides the ones that I just bought these from. And they sent me pictures at the beginning, and I talked to some people and shared it with them. And some of those, from just the pictures, I could tell that, you know, they didn't really look that good. There's some things I didn't like. Maybe their sizes were smaller. Maybe they just looked a little fatigued. Maybe they looked starving. I mean, whatever it is. So, you know, you don't have to visit everywhere, but if you have a list of ranches that you're saying, hey, these all have some for sale, these pictures kind of give me a, hey, I'm going to cut these off, or I might check these ones out. Use it to whittle it down. But before you make a purchase, I really advise you, go over and see the place, talk to the people, get your information. Information is huge, and seeing them and how they move and interact, that is huge as well. So this brings us all back to the question of why did we choose our animals? And besides the fact that they all generally do look good, they were relatively close by, and from the same general environmental area. Those were 3 big ones right there. But really what honestly sold it for me was the people I was dealing with, the rancher, okay? Steve does a fabulous job with his animals. He's very personable. They're very much used to him and how they operate. I would love to be able to have mine like that. He had some good looking animals, but Steve is just a great guy, okay? And fabulous. He's only 3 miles down the road too, which is even better. The other set, the 24 that I got last week with Brent has been very open about stuff. He's been very kind. He's been very communicative, if that's the right word. For instance, he actually came to my office in Houston to want to talk to me before he would be willing to actually sell me the animals. Now, whether or not he would be willing, maybe not is a way to say it, but he had interest in me about who was going to buy the animals. He had other offers from other people. He didn't like what they were going to do with the buffalo and so forth, so he didn't sell them to them. So it's been nice to deal with Steve and Brent because they've been very much interested in not just what happens to the buffalo while they're on their property, but actually who they're going to go to and so forth. So it's just been a great thing. Now, I will just say I have not met somebody in the bison community with respect to that has been a bad guy, okay? They've all been upstanding individuals, and it's been actually really refreshing that way. So great people that I've met so far across the board with all of them. So these are the reasons why I chose my animals, all right? Same environment, good to find a couple ranches that were close by that had some good people, good animals, and the price was decent as well, and so you can't complain there. So everything went out well. I think now we're just gonna enjoy our 32 buffalo. We welcomed Ahmed, the 1,600-pound 3-year-old bull, and also Bartok. And he's 14, I think 60, I think the last sheet said I saw from Steve. So we welcome those 2 dudes, brothers, and hopefully this year we'll get them moving and getting to work, okay? We have 17 that are confirmed pregnant. They can start dropping babies March, at the end of March. Probably April, more through June, we'll start seeing them starting to dot the land. So we're gonna keep checking those every week and working with these 32 and letting them go. So it's been a fabulous day. I appreciate you joining along, and hopefully the information I just shared with you will help you as you buy your livestock, because it's helped me as I bought mine. All right, see you later.
With you, I wanna stay with you.